Let's have a quick review of Java variables using a tutorial. So Java tutorial from Oracle. This is the one. And learning the language basic and the variables. So to declare variable, which is similar to C++, you don't see any difference there. And then we have four kinds of variables. So one is called instance variables. The variables are defined as a member of the class without the keyword static. That's called the instance variables. Class variables are member variables with a keyword static. The clear difference, let me explain that later in this video. And the local variables are variables within a function we call method in Java, and the parameters are a function or method parameters there. So we have four kinds of variables, and there is a slight difference in terms of their meanings and their semantic and syntax though. So we will look into that later. And as to the naming convention, so variable names are case sensitive and you do capitalize the first letter only if it's a class name. So if it's not a class name, such as a variable name or method name, you don't give the first letter in capital. Of course, the exception is that if you give a constant, the keyword final is used for constant definition. We give all upper cases similar to C++. And the primitive data types, Java has 8 primitive data types. 4 of them are integer types. Byte, short, int, long are integer data types, primitive type. These are keywords. The difference is the size, width of bits assigned for that. Byte is 8-bit, short is 16, int is 32, long is 64 bits. So the number it can represent is different. All of those 4 integer types are signed number, so half of them are negative, and then the other half is 0 or positive. So for byte case, 8-bit, you have 256 numbers, but you have half of them are negative, so negative 128, and then through negative 1 is negative, and 0 through positive 127 is positive. So similar to short, int, and long. And then we have 2 floating point data types. So float is 32-bit, double is 64-bit. The number it can represent is different. And another 2 data types, Boolean and then char. Char is 16-bit Unicode, not 8-bit ASCII code those. So these are primitive types, and the only primitive types. So other than that is a non-primitive type. Primitive type and non-primitive type are clearly different. So I will show you in the actual code in the next video for the differences. And the default value of primitive types is like that. So basically it's a 0 or null is the default value. However, these default values are only for class members, instance member variables, not for local variables. So if you define local variable int I, it is never initialized. They don't have a default value. Only if you declare int n as an instance member of the class, then is a default value is assigned. The literal how to represent a value directly in this program code for each of those. So Boolean is true or false. Character char type is a single quote. Any integer types, you just type the integer value. And you can choose to give a decimal value, and with a prefix 0x hexadecimal, prefix 0 be binary number, you can do that. And double type of floating point numbers don't require any suffix. But a floating number, you should give a F or capital or small f is required. For character, single quote, but to represent Unicode, single quote \u and then Unicode value you can represent there. And for Underscore character is also allowed for numeric ones. So long type, you can separate them by a group using underscore and hexadecimal. So feel free to use underscore if you want to group digits as you like. But some of those invalid cannot put underscore adjacent to the decimal point. So you can read those ones in detail later as you need.